Hi everyone, my name is Robin. I'm making this video because I recently made two churches that many of you said you really liked and wanted to see how I made it, so I thought I would share the process and how I made these churches. I am a recently retired third grade teacher. I taught for 30 years, and now I'm enjoying time in my craft room, making projects and crafts, and most of my ideas have come from you all. I love everything that I see on Facebook, online. I'm just enjoying it so much, and you have inspired me greatly, so thank you for sharing all of your wonderful ideas, and I hope that you enjoy making this little church. We're going to start with the items you will need to make this project. First, you will need these gift tags from Walmart. They're in the wood section. Then, these come in a pack of 5. You can get these anywhere. Walmart, Hobby Lobby. You'll need 4 of them actually. Then this shorter arrow comes from the Dollar Tree, and this Gothic arch comes from Walmart. You will need this tile cover for the arch part, and that came from Dollar Tree, and this also comes from Dollar Tree for the arrow. And then you'll also need the longer arrow from Dollar Tree. Next, you will need to remember to remove all tags, staples, ropes, or anything like that from the back of each piece. Next, you're going to grab your wall tiles from Dollar Tree, and you're going to decide where you want it to show, and then you're going to lay it on the back. And then I use this little cutting tool from Fiskars. I got it on Amazon. It is great for going around edges like this. When you want to cut something, you can get very close, and it's really easy to cut. And now you have that one covered. And then you sand off any edges that are sticking out. You're going to do the same thing with the shorter arrow. Again, you will want to make sure that you're placing it where you want the design to be on the arrow. Then I'm using my Fiskar tool and I'm cutting around the edges. Once that's all cut, I will sand off any extra pieces. Now you're ready to start laying out your pieces, so you will be able to measure everything out and see where everything is going to go. So you can see I am kind of piecing it together. Your 2 tags go on the bottom, your straight piece goes across the bottom, and then the other 2 straight pieces go on the ends. The long arrow will need to be cut a little bit shorter so that it fits in line with the angle of the tags. So I marked it where I wanted to cut it, and then I also need to cut these 2 straight pieces at a 45-degree angle. You can see here where I have cut the pieces using my little saw from Walmart, and now I'm just laying it all down to make sure that it all lines up correctly. Now you're ready to paint. So I am using the Plaster Waverly paint, and I am painting each piece white. So you want to make sure that the edges are white and the front of each piece. On the tags, you only really have to do a little more than half because it won't show the whole thing, and you're going to be putting glue on the other part, and it probably will stick better if there's not paint there. Same with the arrow. You don't have to go all the way to the bottom. You can just paint it partially. And then these 2 angled pieces, really the outsides are the only parts that have to be painted because they're also going to be the parts that stick out. So I'm just giving everything a nice coat of that white paint, making sure I get all the edges. This straight piece that goes on the bottom also only has to be the 2 sides. For the next step, you're going to use the crackle paste from Hobby Lobby and a palette knife. You're just going to spread it on over the white paint, and I just try to use both sides of the palette knife to kind of give it the shape and texture that I want. And then as soon as you get it on there, you need to dry it with your heating gun or whatever, blow dryer or whatever you have to heat it. And then you can start to see it crackle and make its shape. So you're going to do that on all of the pieces that you have painted on the wood. Just trying to get the texture you want. Sometimes I had to be careful not to have a groove in there from the palette knife, but once you've got the texture, then you just dry it, and it's amazing how it just raises up and comes out like a textured building. Here you can see what everything looks like after the crackle paste has been applied. Nice texture on each piece. You do not use crackle paste on the two pieces that you covered with the wall tiles. For the next part, you're going to use antique wax from Waverly, and you're going to use the dry brushing technique. So you're just going to put a little bit of paint on your brush and get most of it off. You can wipe it off with a paper towel and just get a little bit of paint on there. And then you're lightly going to brush over the texture that you just painted. I start out doing it very lightly, and I add more as I go as I think it needs it. I also try to make the edges more distressed, so I add more to the edges. You will continue this process for each piece that you've painted. Again, I start light and then I go back over it and make it a little darker if I think it needs it. I love how the texture comes out when you add the distressing ink to it. Then I go back around the edges and make those darker. You will want to go over the two pieces that you did with the tile. First I go around the outside, again distressing the edges, and then again I use a light coat of paint to start going over the texture on the wall tile. I just want to be able to make that texture pop out. So again, I start light and I add more as I think I need it until I can see all of the design coming through. Then you will do the same thing to the arrow piece that has a wall tile on it. Again, you just want to make that design pop through with the distressing ink. Next, you're going to get your cross and your clock from Dollar Tree and paint those with black ink. I just used ink from Waverly. And then this is the piece that I found, I think I got this at Hobby Lobby, that I'm going to use for the background of my door. On my other churches, I was able to use a hanging piece that had beads on it from the Dollar Tree. It was a solid black scalloped piece, but I couldn't find another one, so I am using this one instead that I got at Hobby Lobby. And now here I'm doing the exact same distressing technique with the black ink. I'm just going over each piece very lightly to give it a little more texture and color by adding the black to all of my pieces. Then I have a board for the bottom. This is going to be the base. I'm using the Waverly Antique Wax. I just got this in the wood section at the Dollar Tree. And this is just going to be the base that the church sits on. So I just inked it all. And then I used a wipe to get some of the excess off until I got the color that I wanted it to be. For the next part, I am making the door. So I just used corrugated cardboard and cut it into two pieces that I wanted the shape of the door to be. I went over it with the antique Waverly wax. I also had a wooden block from Dollar Tree that I thought would be nice to put behind the frame. So I am also using the antique wax on that piece of wood. I'm going to let those completely dry. And once those are dry, I'm going to use the white paint again to just make a little bit of, to make it look like it's a doorway that's open, or a door. I don't know what it's supposed to look like, but I just like the way that it looks. I saw someone else do this and I thought it looked really neat. And then I used the black paint to make doorknobs, and it just gives it that three-dimensional look. I used some black also to distress all of it, and that's now it is finally time to start gluing all of the pieces together. I'm using a combination of E6000 and hot glue. Starting with the tags, I glue those together first, and then the straight piece is lined up with the bottom. The two angled pieces go on the edge of the straight piece, making sure that they're lined up with the edges. Then I flip it over and I use an extra, or I put the arrow on the top. So I'm putting the glue on the angled pieces and at the bottom so it sticks there. And then I use an extra straight piece just to give it some support and glue it all together. This just goes on the back. It's just an extra straight piece for support. Then on the front, you're going to put your long arrow. Again, E6000 and hot glue. Make sure it's lined up all on the bottom. Then for the next part, you're going to put your Gothic arch, then your door, piece all of that together or whatever you're using for that, and glue each of those pieces on. Again, you will need to make sure that it is lined up with the bottom of the church. Then you will glue on the clock onto the shorter tower, and the cross goes at the very top. Next, you will put E6000 and hot glue and glue it to your base. I am using Jenga blocks to support it in the back, and I used the one that I painted and put it in the front to be a step. I took 2 popsicle sticks and cut them for the roof, and then I stained those as well. I do realize that I kind of put it on my board crooked, so hopefully yours won't be crooked. The last step is adding some greenery around the outside of the church. I just used some greenery that I had on hand. And then I decided to add a double step because the doors looked like they were kind of floating in the air. So I put 3 Jenga blocks there, 2 flat ones and then one on top to make it look like stairs. I touched everything up with my distressing ink, and I think at the very end I did add 2 more flowers that you can't see. But here is the final product, and it looks fantastic on my parents' mantle. I hope that you enjoyed watching this process and that you will have fun making your own version of this little church.